In my past life, I died at the hands of the young man I had raised. When we meet again in this life, he has become the exalted Marquis who pacifies the north, touching my face, which bears a 60% resemblance to my former self. I try to hide among the prisoners, but he looks straight at me and says calmly, "Madam, it's time to go home." Hello everyone, welcome to Empress Revenge Stories. Let's begin. I died. They say you go to the underworld after death, and the old saying proved true. I stood in line and walked up to Mangpo's great cauldron. The man ahead of me was forced by the neck to drink a bowl of her soup. 3 seconds later, Mangpa asked him, "What is your name?" The man looked dazed. "I can't quite remember." Mangpa nodded with satisfaction. "Good. Next." Then it was my turn. As Mangpa was about to pour the soup down my throat, I quickly raised a hand. "No need to trouble yourself, sister. I'll do it myself." I downed a bowl of Mangpa soup in one gulp. The portion was generous. I let out a long, satisfied burp, handed back the bowl, and then exchanged an awkward stare with Mangpa as I waited for her to ask me her question. 3 seconds later, Mangpa spoke. "What is your name?" I thought for a moment. "Zhu Huanyan." Mangpa waved her hand reflexively. "Good. Next." Then she froze. "What did you say?" Mangpa was horrified. She quickly handed me another bowl. "Drink another one." I drank another bowl of thick Mangpa soup. "What is your name?" "Zhu Huanyan." Another bowl. "What is your name?" "Zhu Huanyan." Another bowl. Another bowl. I looked at the soup before me and told the truth. "I can't drink anymore." Mangpa finally accepted that her soup had no effect on me. She was a little broken. "How can this be?" I tried to comfort her. "Don't be sad. Your soup tastes fine. Actually, it's just a little salty." Mangpa glared at me. I explained further. "Is it possible?" "I'm just saying it's possible that I'm allergic to your soup." Then I passed out. The other ghosts rushed over to watch the excitement, shouting joyfully, "Mangpo's soup killed someone! Mangpo's soup killed someone!" But they failed to realize one thing: I was already dead. How could I die again? Mangpo's soup simply had no effect on me. Mangpo's career was in crisis. She calmly discussed it with me, asking me not to tell her boss, Lord Yama. I gladly agreed. In exchange, Mangpa hid it from Lord Yama as well and allowed me to reincarnate smoothly. And so, carrying the memories of my past life, I joyfully leaped into the rebirth urn. In my past life, I was a female general. I died in battle at the age of 24, in an ordinary household. A woman that age would already have children old enough to work in the fields. But I was a virgin ghost who had never even touched a man. I felt some regret. So in this life I decided to let myself go. I chose to be reborn into a bandit's den. The chieftain's wife has given birth. Congratulations, chieftain. It's a beautiful daughter. That's right, it was me. I looked at the big, burly man sobbing uncontrollably over me and felt at a loss. This was my father in this life. He hugged me and practically cried himself into convulsions. Not knowing how to react, I just grinned at him. The big man cried even harder, exclaiming through his sobs, "My daughter smiled right after she was born." Because of that, I was given the same name as in my past life, Qin Huanyan. This was a mountain stronghold of 800 people. My father was the chieftain, and my mother was the wife he had kidnapped. Who would have thought that my mother would actually fall for my father? Even when her family came to take her back, she refused. Before I even grew up, I could stir up the stronghold until it was in chaos. As I got older, my father completely lost control over me. The year I turned 15, I did something earth-shattering. I led my men to intercept a convoy passing through Longhu Mountain and kidnapped the young master traveling with it. The young master was about my age, fair-skinned and handsome. The more I looked at him, the more I liked him. But there was one problem. He was far too timid. Ever since I brought him into the stronghold, he had been crying non-stop for an entire day. I tried to scare him. "Stop crying, or I'll throw you out to the wolves." He paused briefly, then cried even harder. I rubbed my forehead. I'm not actually such a terrible person. It's just that in my past life I was too disciplined, and all my rebelliousness followed me into this one. I kidnapped him simply because he was good-looking. I wanted him to play with me for a few days, innocently. I swear. The young master sobbed. "You have to let me go back quickly, or my adoptive father will kill you when he finds out." Was he actually worried about me? I couldn't help but laugh. Who is your adoptive father? Is he really that formidable? The young master's red-rimmed eyes glared at me. My adoptive father is the Marquis who pacifies the north. Lu Tingsheng. Thud. The whip I'd been lazily swinging fell to the ground. Hearing the name of a past life acquaintance, my mind went blank. Speaking of which, I was the one who had named Lu Tingsheng. That year, during a great drought in the Western Front, I was sent by the court to resettle refugees. At a pavilion 5 miles outside the Western Front, I found Lu Tingsheng. He had lost all his family, so I let him follow me. He said his surname was Lu, so I gave him the name Lu Tingsheng. He said he had nowhere to go, so I took him to the frontier, where he stayed for 7 years. To be honest, I treated him very well. The boy I had raised like a younger brother became a powerful marquis who dominated the northern frontier. I felt a little proud, but beneath that pride was regret, since he was so powerful now. How could I take my revenge? After all, he was the one who killed me. In my past life, I led the army to block the Nanman forces at Wuxia Pass, but the reinforcements I was promised never arrived. My remaining 500 soldiers and I were trapped at Wuxia. I risked everything to send Lu Tingsheng out to get reinforcements, but in the end, he came back leading the Nanman army. I and the remaining 500 soldiers all died in battle. Just before I died, I used the last of my strength to plunge my blade into his chest. I thought he was dead, but it seems he was luckier than me. I looked down at the young man before me and curled my lips. Your adoptive father is Lu Tingsheng. Then who are you? Perhaps frightened by my expression, the young master shrank back and lowered his voice. I am Jiang Jinyan. Ah, another familiar person. I paused for a moment, then leaned down and turned his face toward me to get a better look. Now that I saw him up close, he really did look like his father. His father had been one of the soldiers who died fighting beside me at Wuxia Pass. When we set out on that campaign, his wife was already pregnant. She had already chosen a name, Jiang Jinyan. Back then, I had been a little embarrassed. Even if you admire me that much, you don't need to go this far. His father scratched his head, even more bashful than I was. You've misunderstood, General. The child's mother has the single character Yen in her name. Before I could ask how he had come to recognize Lu Tingsheng as his adoptive father, one of my men came running up in a panic. Boss, something terrible has happened. He was crying in fear. There are government soldiers coming to wipe us out. I scolded him. Nonsense. Old Qin pays the government plenty of silver every year, but they've already reached our doorstep. A sense of foreboding rose in my heart. I turned to Jiang Jinyan, feigning calm. Your adoptive father couldn't possibly have come this quickly, could he? He looked up at me, knowing my adoptive father's nature. It's entirely possible. What rotten luck. Why did I have to bring this jinx up the mountain? And on top of that, he was the son of a former comrade in arms. I couldn't even beat him up to vent my frustration, so I dragged him to the front of the stronghold, intending to return him and buy some temporary peace. But I had no chance even to negotiate with Lu Tingsheng. He had captured nearly everyone in the stronghold, including my parents, who were held at sword point. Alarmed, I searched the crowd for Lu Tingsheng. There was no need to search, I spotted him immediately. He was on horseback, clad in black armor, radiating a killing aura. For a moment, I didn't dare recognize him. He had changed so much. I quickly snapped back to reality, pulled Jiang Jinyan to the front, and pressed a dagger to his throat. If you don't want him to die, release everyone in my stronghold. Jiang Jinyan cooperated beautifully, shouting, Adoptive father, save me. Adoptive father, save me. Lu Tingsheng followed the sound of his voice. The moment his gaze met mine, I actually stammered. Ridiculous. A legendary female war god. Scared by one look from him, I cleared my throat and was about to speak when he spoke first. Come here. His voice was hoarse and emotionless. I was stunned. Glancing at Jiang Jinyan beside me, I realized he was talking to him. Was I being completely ignored? Well, my temper flared. I pushed the dagger forward, and its blade nicked Jiang Jinyan's skin. He screamed in terror. Let's see if Lu Tingsheng dared to ignore me now. Just as I was about to speak, I heard the whistle of something slicing through the air. I instinctively tilted my head, and an arrow flew past my cheek, If I had been even a fraction slower, my head would have a hole in it. Cold sweat broke out on my skin. This Lu Tingsheng was even more ruthless than I had been in my own day. Lu Tingsheng glanced at me indifferently. Your reflexes aren't bad. My parents were terrified. Huanyan, are you all right? I saw a change in Lu Tingsheng's expression. His gaze toward me was full of scrutiny. After all, hearing the name of a past acquaintance, one he had personally killed, was bound to stir some guilt. I hadn't expected him to let us off so easily. He pointed at me. Come with me, and I'll spare the rest of your stronghold. I frowned. Why? Lu Tingsheng seemed impatient. I don't feel like killing anyone today. Damn. He actually managed to look cool saying that. As he rode past me, I considered whether to take a chance, jump up, and stab him to death. In the end, I let go of the idea. I didn't want to go back to the underworld so soon to chat with Meng Pa. I had agreed to her terms. Besides, I was confident that a small Marquis mansion couldn't keep me prisoner. In my day, I had freely roamed enemy camps. Lu Tingsheng glanced at me and ordered his men to feed my parents 2 black pills. This is a poison. You'll need an antidote every month. The rest goes without saying. I stared at him blankly and then gave him a thumbs up. Lu Tingsheng. Well done. My parents immediately rushed to me, clutching my hands. Daughter, our lives are in your hands. What else could I say? On the way back to his mansion with him, Jiang Jinyan grew bolder. He pointed at me. Why aren't you fierce anymore? Weren't you so tough just now? I looked down at myself. I wasn't tied up. He was gesticulating wildly, so I sighed, grabbed his wrist, and pulled him close. He stared at my face, which suddenly flushed bright red. Adoptive father, save me. Adoptive father, save me. Lu Tingsheng's voice came from ahead. I've confiscated his weapons. If you still get beaten, it just means you're not as skilled as him. Hearing that, I grinned and gave Jiang Jinyan a thorough thrashing. I entered Lu Tingsheng's mansion under some ambiguous status. If I had to name it, maid would be most accurate. When he practiced martial arts, I poured his tea. When he ate, I filled his bowl. When he wrote memorials at night, I ground his ink. In just a few days, I had done more work than in 2 lifetimes. Lu Tingsheng rarely spoke to me. He did ask me what my name meant. After I explained, he showed no particular reaction. One evening, I happened to see Jiang Jinyan visiting the mansion and lured him to my courtyard on some pretext. Tell me, how did you come to recognize Lu Tingsheng as your adoptive father? He looked away. None of your business. I shrugged, then stuffed something into his mouth. This is a unique poison from my stronghold. I'll give you the antidote only after you talk. Jiang Jinyan's face went pale. You. I picked my ear. Hurry up. He stammered out his answer. I was an orphan. My father and my adoptive father were old friends. He adopted me out of pity. An orphan. Pitiful. I was momentarily stunned. His father had indeed died with me at Wuxia Pass. But what about his mother? And judging by his manner, he had no idea that his adoptive father was his father's killer. I looked at him. What about your mother? Jiang Jinyan lowered his head, looking dejected, like a bullied little rabbit. For once, I felt a twinge of guilt. She died, he said. Footsteps sounded behind us. I swallowed the words on my tongue. Lu Tingsheng was back. Jiang Jinyan darted behind him and immediately tattled. Adoptive father. He fed me poison. Lu Tingsheng glanced at me. Was it fun? I laughed. Yes, it was fun. This little fool is particularly fun to play with. I only gave him ordinary honey syrup, but he was so nervous he couldn't even taste the sweetness. That night, I was grinding ink for Lu Tingsheng in his study. He had always been quiet when writing memorials. That much had never changed. I weighed my words for a long time before speaking. Marquis, how did Jiang Jinyan's mother die? I had no subtlety. I asked straight out. Lu Tingsheng's brush paused. Why ask? I touched my nose. Just curious. Lu Tingsheng didn't answer. After a long while, he put down his brush, let the memorial dry, and put it away before saying, in the Battle of Wuxia Pass, his father died in battle. His mother followed him after giving birth to Jinyan. She had died for love. In that moment, I desperately wanted to ask him, what about you? What did you do in the Battle of Wuxia Pass? Lu Tingsheng turned when I fell silent. He reached out to touch my face unexpectedly. The moment his hand touched my cheek, I snapped back to reality and knocked it away. The sharp sound was jarring in the quiet study. His eyes darkened, and he reached for me again, rubbing my nose. I was startled. "What are you doing?" I stayed frozen. His calloused finger rubbed my nose. "You got ink on it." I looked at the smudge on his fingertip and mumbled, "Oh." A few days later, I caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror and suddenly realized that my current appearance was 60% similar to my past self. That was not good. With a face like this, I was in constant danger. Lu Tingsheng had killed me once. He could certainly do it again. Although I'd never figured out what the Nan Man had promised him to make him betray me. I needed to leave this dangerous place quickly. After 2 days of observation, I discovered a secret room behind Lu Tingsheng's study. I was sure my parents' antidote was in there. I had to take it with me. While Lu Tingsheng was away at a palace banquet, I snuck into his study. The secret room wasn't hard to find, but its mechanism was tricky. It took me a long time. As soon as I entered, I went straight for the shelf of jars and bottles. I didn't know which was the antidote, so I took everything. I filled my bag to the brim and was about to make my escape when my eyes were drawn to a spirit tablet at the back of the room. The light was dim, so I couldn't see clearly. I walked closer involuntarily. When I made out the characters, I was struck dumb. They read, "Spirit Tablet of Zhu Huanyan, General who pacifies the peace." My spirit tablet. Was Lu Tingsheng insane? He killed me, then came to worship me. Was he afraid I would turn into a vengeful ghost and come after him? Behind the tablet was a painting. I was about to look when I felt a presence behind me. Lu Tingsheng had returned. Before I could turn, his hand closed around my neck. He lifted me off the ground as if I weighed nothing. The suffocation was overwhelming. I realized this man wanted to kill me. But being held up like this, I could see the painting clearly. It depicted a female general in red armor, heroic and dashing. Although the face was unpainted, I knew it was me. My trembling finger pointed at the painting, and I managed to choke out a word. "That person. You know her." Lu Tingsheng's gaze shifted to the painting, and he immediately loosened his grip. I was pleased by his reaction, truly. Even in death, I could still intimidate him. He stared at the painting, his voice strange. "She died before you were born. How do you know her?" I pulled free and said, "I've seen her in my dreams." Lu Tingsheng was acting oddly. He seemed not to hear me as he walked toward the painting, stopping a few steps away. Then he coughed up blood and collapsed. I stared at him in shock, rubbing my throat. He was still conscious and reached out to me, saying one word, "Medicine." "What medicine?" I reflexively patted his clothing. Midway, I stopped. Was I an idiot? This was the perfect chance to kill him. I was excited. I drew the blade from his waist and prepared to strike. I had long wanted to cut open his heart to see if it was black. But when I pulled open his collar, I stopped. In my past life, I had stabbed him in the chest. Where was the scar? Even if he had survived, he couldn't have made the scar disappear completely. I touched his chest carefully. The skin was smooth, with no sign of injury. His breathing was growing weaker. I quickly fed him a pill from his waist. I had to find out the truth. I couldn't die without knowing what had really happened. Lu Tingsheng was carried to his room, and I followed. The mansion's physician glanced at me. "All idle people out." I grinned at him and raised my hand. "Why don't you take it up with the Marquis? It's not like I wanted to be here." Lu Tingsheng's hand was clutching mine tightly. The physician's face stiffened, but he said no more. After everyone else left, I was alone in the room with Lu Tingsheng. I tried to pull my hand away, but it wouldn't budge. Irritated, I slapped his head. His head turned, and his grip loosened. I exhaled, shook out my sore hand, and turned to leave. But after only a few steps, I felt him tugging at my clothes. He was still at it. I was about to hit him again when I saw that his eyes had opened, and he was staring at me with an intense gaze. I paused, already thinking about where I should be buried. "Huanyan," he whispered. I raised an eyebrow. The way he addressed me was worth noting. I didn't dare respond. I just stood by the bed, looking down at him. When I was expressionless, I looked cold and severe. In my past life, it had earned me the nickname, Cold-Faced General. On the battlefield, Lu Tingsheng's gaze was somewhat unfocused. After all these years, You finally appear in my dreams. Huanyan, are you lonely down there? Ha! He was mistaking me for Zhu Huanyan. I bent down and pinched his cheek as I used to do long ago. It felt a bit odd, his skin seemed older, not as smooth. I negotiated calmly. I am very lonely down there. Why don't you come keep me company? Pingsheng, you've always listened to me. Come down and be with me. Lu Tingsheng probably hadn't expected the person in his dream to actually speak. He was stunned for a moment, not waiting for an answer. I seized the chance to extract my clothes and leave. Just as my hand touched the door, I heard him speak again. Wait a little longer. Wait a little longer for me. I didn't believe him for a second. I pushed the door open and left without hesitation. To find out how Lu Tingsheng's wound had disappeared, I had to use the same trick again. Yes. I brought Jiang Jinyan over once more. He refused to talk at first, so I pried open his mouth and put something in it. Jiang Jinyan coughed a few times and glared at me. Stupid girl. I'm not going to fall for that again. Is that so? I shrugged nonchalantly. Then let's make a bet. I have nothing to lose anyway. Jiang Jinyan stared at me warily for a long time before finally giving in. I asked him, has your adoptive father never had a sword wound on his chest? He thought for a moment, then said, I used to wipe his body down when I was little. As far as I remember, there wasn't one, but my adoptive father has fought in many battles over the years, so he's bound to have been injured. I don't know about now. I rested my chin on my hand thoughtfully and answered, he doesn't have one now either. Jiang Jinyan jumped up in shock and pointed at me. You've seen my adoptive father naked. I spat out my tea. Couldn't he phrase that better? He made it sound like Lu Tingsheng was some blushing maiden, seeing his face cycle through different shades of red and pale. I suddenly felt like teasing him. I pretended to be embarrassed and let my words slip. Your adoptive father is only 32, and I've already had my coming-of-age ceremony. He's unmarried. I'm not married. Why are you so surprised? I leaned closer to Jiang Jinyan and whispered, what would you say if I became your adoptive mother? Jiang Jinyan's eyes went wide. He leaned back and fell to the ground. I stared, was that really so shocking? He pointed at me, stammering, I didn't say. He said it all. I fell silent. Only then did I sense someone behind me. I didn't even have to guess who else could frighten Jiang Jinyan like that. I composed my expression and turned around calmly. Marquis, your lightness skill is truly excellent. So good that I didn't notice you the first 3 times. Lu Tingsheng glanced at me, then flicked his sleeve. You, come with me. Jiang Jinyan lowered his head and started to follow. I couldn't stand it. I pulled him back. He was talking to me. You stay here. I followed Lu Tingsheng to his study. This time, he didn't even try to hide from me. Opening the secret room directly, he stood with his back to me, facing my spirit tablet, his voice cold. You'd better explain what you said before. My mind raced, and I began to make things up. Her, Zhu Huanyan. She loved riding horses and drinking the most, and hated flattery most of all. I dreamt about her often when I was little. I guessed. I sidled closer mysteriously. Do you think she still has some lingering resentment and wants revenge? Lu Tingsheng didn't even look at me. What else? I made up more. She said she went to war at 16 and fought hundreds of battles. Unfortunately, her luck ran out, and she died at Wuxia Pass. I snuck a look at Lu Tingsheng, but he still had his back to me. Speaking again. What else? I was confused. What did he want to hear? Unable to think of anything else. I went from her eating habits to her clothing habits, from her clothing habits to her strategies in war. In the end, I couldn't hold back any longer. Just as I was about to give up, Lu Tingsheng finally turned around. He walked right past me without a glance. I was stunned for a moment, then chased after him. Marquis, does this mean you believe me? Lu Tingsheng said. No, I had never known he could be so infuriating, but right now I couldn't beat him. As I watched his back as he walked away, I looked up at the sky and began to wonder what the point was of enduring this humiliation. I couldn't go on like this. I thought back to my past life with Lu Tingsheng. For the most part, he agreed with whatever I said. In decades together, I rarely got angry with him. Oh, there was one exception. I remembered when we returned to the capital in triumph after defeating the enemy army. The emperor, wanting to reward me, suddenly declared he would grant me a marriage. That wasn't a reward. He just wanted to keep me tied to the capital. He was beginning to fear me. He chose a groom for me, a notorious wastrel. I almost laughed with anger, but I didn't want to refuse the emperor outright. I only said I would think about it. To my surprise, Lu Tingsheng, who was always so gentle and obedient, was even angrier than I was. When that young man was racing horses in the outskirts, Lu Tingsheng broke both his legs. It took me a great deal of effort to cover it up, and because of it, I ignored him for 3 days. He wasn't very clever. There were much subtler ways to harm someone without getting one's own hands dirty. Aside from that, I'd rarely been angry with him. What had made him become like this? What I hadn't expected was that Lu Tingsheng was going to get married. When I heard the news, I was stunned for a long time. Jiang Jinyan told me the engagement had been settled long ago. The bride was the daughter of the Prince of Cheng, the Princess of Anyang. I knew the Prince of Cheng, a very smooth operator. At his daughter's first birthday celebration, I had brought Lu Tingsheng, who was only 13, and now, she was getting married, to Lu Tingsheng of all people. Fate was truly fascinating. Watching my enemy live happily, I suddenly felt that it all meant nothing. I had too many ties to my past life. I wanted to let go. I lay on the rooftop, watching the people below joyfully preparing the betrothal gifts. I turned to Jiang Jinyan. How about I take you away? He was stunned. Where? I chewed on a blade of grass. Anywhere. I can take you back to the stronghold, or we can wander the world together. Jiang Jinyan looked down at the scene below and suddenly understood. Are you leaving because my adoptive father is getting married? I raised an eyebrow. What does that have to do with him? I've just seen the light. Life is short, we should live for ourselves. He clearly didn't believe me. The way he looked at me was like he was seeing a woman scorned by love. I rolled my eyes and didn't bother explaining. I had been the one to console his father when he was heartbroken over a woman. This time, I found the antidote quickly. I planned to escape during the chaos of Lu Tingsheng's wedding. When I packed my things and crawled into Jiang Jinyan's room, he looked at me in terror. Are you really going to take me with you? Yes. I never lie. He clutched his blanket, not moving, impatient. I pulled him out of bed. Hurry up and pack. Once your adoptive father gets married, there's no place for you here. What if the new mistress isn't easy to get along with? You'll be miserable as a subordinate. Besides, there's a whole wide world out there. It's time you saw it. I half threatened, half tempted the dazed Jiang Jinyan out of the mansion. I wasn't so attached to the little burden. It was just that I couldn't figure Lu Tingsheng out, and I didn't feel comfortable leaving him here. The mansion hadn't been so lively in a long time. Silk and satin hung everywhere, guests flowed like clouds, and a crowd of commoners gathered at the gate to watch. I meant to leave right then, but the boy insisted on seeing the bride arrive and watching his adoptive father go through the ceremony before leaving. I couldn't dissuade him. The wedding of the Marquis who pacifies the north and the Princess of Anyang was especially grand. Wearing her phoenix coronet and red veil, the princess entered the mansion gates with the help of the bridal matron. Everything was going according to plan until a sudden change. The bride placed her hand in Lu Tingsheng's and instantly produced a dagger from her wide sleeve. I had sharper eyes than most. As soon as I saw her hand go into her sleeve, I felt something was wrong, but I couldn't stop her. Her dagger flew straight toward Lu Tingsheng's chest. Lu Tingsheng seemed to have anticipated this. He seized her wrist and flicked off her red veil with his other hand. I sighed with relief and leaned casually against the railing, pulling back the eager Jiang Jinyan. This assassination attempt was sure to fail. The princess was quite beautiful, but her expression was twisted with fury. What a waste. Lu Tingsheng wasn't one to show mercy to a fair lady. He subdued her easily, and the guards tied her up. She lay on the ground, still glaring at him with hatred. Oh ho, it seemed there was a story between them. Lu Tingsheng leaned down, turned her face, and touched it carefully. I was shocked. There were so many guests watching, and he was openly groping her. After a few seconds, he seemed to find something, his gaze hardening. Then I watched him peel off her face. Oh, it was him. Jiang Jinyan and I exclaimed together. I turned sharply. You recognize him? The princess had completely transformed. She was now a woman with a hideous scar on her face, plain-featured, nowhere near as radiant as before. She was a prisoner from one of the Nanman's 13 cities. My adoptive father intended to let her go, but she bit the hand that fed him. Jiang Jinyan explained. Lu Tingsheng. Being kind. I was skeptical. Of course not. Jiang Jinyan denied it without hesitation. My adoptive father was just using her to lure out the bigger fish behind her. But it seems he's failed. I raised an eyebrow. That's not certain. After the scene, the guests didn't dare stay longer and left one after another. The once joyful hall was now dyed red with fresh blood. The female assassin had been killed on the spot by Lu Tingsheng. I watched as Lu Tingsheng walked toward me, looking unconcerned. I instinctively wanted to run, but my feet seemed glued to the ground. He came up to me, glanced at Jiang Jinyan beside me, and asked, "Why haven't you left yet?" I stared at him in disbelief. How did he know I was planning to run? I had been so careful. Jiang Jinyan, before I could even look at him, quickly defended himself. I didn't say anything. Lu Tingsheng sighed. Go. Take this little fool with you. Qin Huanyan. You're clever and quick-witted. Look after him. I looked at him suspiciously. His words sounded like a dying man's entrustment. I pouted. No reward for me. And you expect me to raise your child? Marquis, your calculations are so obvious that even my brothers in Longhu stronghold can hear them. Jiang Jinyan cried after Lu Tingsheng. Adoptive father. Don't you want me anymore? I'm not leaving. I waved at him. Little fool. Don't worry. I'll go negotiate a good price with your adoptive father. The little fool cried even harder. This time, I was the one who came to the secret room. Tell me the truth about what happened. If I'm satisfied, I'll raise the little fool for you. Lu Tingsheng looked at me, his expression indifferent. What do you want to know? How did he really die at Wuxia Pass? I pointed at the painting, my eyes fixed on Lu Tingsheng. He looked at the painting for a long time. He died in battle, trapped in a perilous situation at Wuxia Pass. Without reinforcements. He died fighting. Then why were there no reinforcements? I asked. During my attempt to get reinforcements, I fell into an enemy trap. I was captured. So you betrayed him. My voice rose abruptly. So you led the Nanman army back to the remaining soldiers. Lu Tingsheng's head snapped toward me, his eyes bloodshot. No, I would never betray him. After I escaped, I brought troops back to Wuxia Pass. But by then they were all ready. I sneered. Everyone from back then is dead. You can say whatever you want now. There's no one to contradict you. Lu Tingsheng fell silent, his gaze fixed on the spirit tablet before him. Did you know that a family in Nanman excels at disguise? Their masks are so realistic that even the closest person couldn't tell the difference. I shuddered, thinking of the female assassin in the front hall. All the blood in my body seemed to turn cold. If what Lu Tingsheng said was true, if such masks existed, then there was another explanation for what happened back then. The one who led the siege against us wasn't Lu Tingsheng, but a Nanman wearing his mask. And it also explained why he had no sword wound on his chest. I felt dizzy, my head spinning. Lu Tingsheng caught me, his voice heavy. I'll have someone escort you away. I looked at the smoke rising from the incense burner before me, cursed under my breath, and passed out. When I woke, I was in a carriage leaving the city. Jiang Jinyan was sleeping soundly beside me, clearly knocked out by his adoptive father as well. I lifted the carriage curtain, and the deputy general driving glanced back at me. Stop the carriage, I said. He hesitated but ultimately did as I asked. We were in the outskirts, and the city gates had already closed. I climbed to the top of a nearby hill and looked toward the capital. It was anything but peaceful. Shouts of battle were everywhere, and flames blazed. Who's rebelling this time? I asked. The Marquis has surrounded the Prince of Cheng's mansion, said the deputy general. Ah, of course. The bride turning into an assassin was grounds for demanding an explanation. He shook his head. It's not just an explanation. The Marquis is going to exterminate them. I turned to him in surprise. He said, exterminate. So lightly. Were all of Lu Tingsheng's men as crazy as he was? Was the assassin sent by the Prince of Cheng? I asked. He looked at me. No. The assassin was just an excuse. The real target is the Prince of Cheng. He was behind the reinforcements failing to arrive at Wuxia Pass. I was stunned. It made sense in a way, but it was also unexpected. The Prince of Cheng and I did have some discord, Lu Tingsheng had broken the leg of the prince's only son. After that son died in a brothel the following year, the prince blamed me for both old and new grievances. I hadn't realized he would go so far as to sabotage a military campaign, costing me my life. The deputy general looked at me again, hesitating. "Speak plainly," I said. He was direct. "Are you the secret daughter of Zhu Huanyan, the general who pacifies the peace?" I was shocked. "Why would you say that? You two are practically identical." I was trying to think of a rebuttal when he added, "And since you appeared, the Marquis has been spacing out more and more often." What kind of reason was that? I almost laughed. But before the smile could form, his next words froze me. "The Marquis has loved the general who pacifies the peace for so many years. When he suddenly finds out she has a daughter out there, he must be heartbroken." Who loved whom? I pointed at the deputy general. "You can eat whatever you like, but you can't just say anything." He sighed. "Everyone who's been with the Marquis for a long time knows his feelings. Why would it be groundless?" I stood there as if struck by lightning. The words echoed in my mind. He loved the general who pacifies the peace. Loved her for so many years. So many years. When? I had never known. Lu Tingsheng exterminated the Prince of Cheng's household. As dawn broke, he rode out of the capital with hundreds of thousands of soldiers, heading south. Where is he going now? I asked the deputy general. To Nanman, to avenge his lost love. I watched the black-armored army leave the capital. He was still the one you could pick out at a glance. Only then did I allow myself to truly look at him. He was completely different from the obedient, gentle Lu Tingsheng I remembered, yet so like him in some ways, the same stubbornness, the same devotion to Zhu Huanyan. The wind was strong on the hilltop, and I got sand in my eyes. I could no longer see clearly, so I turned and went back down. "Go," I said. "You don't have to escort us back. Go with them." The deputy general gave me a long look before leaving. "If we return, alive or dead, come and meet him." I nodded and smiled. "All right." He seemed relieved. He mounted his horse and rode south. 2 months had passed since Lu Tingsheng left the capital. The emperor sent more than 10 decrees ordering him to stop fighting and return to the capital for punishment. But Lu Tingsheng, with a phrase about generals in the field not always obeying orders, tore up the decrees and beheaded the messengers for disturbing the army's morale. He had completely broken with the court. The emperor sat on his throne, trembling daily, afraid that Lu Tingsheng would return with his army, just as he had feared me. But Lu Tingsheng had no such intention. He was focused on revenge. In just 2 months, he had captured 19 Nanman cities. The more unstoppable he became, the more uneasy the emperor grew. Now I understood that my lack of reinforcements was not just the Prince of Cheng's doing. The emperor had allowed it. The most heartless are those of royal blood. Lu Tingsheng must have known when he left that there would be no reinforcements coming. He hadn't planned to return alive. I said goodbye to my parents, entrusted Jiang Jinyan to them, kowtowed twice at the foot of Longhu Mountain, and enlisted in the army with my hundreds of men. I would climb the ranks just as I had in my past life. I would build my own army. An army that only took orders from me. That would be easier, wouldn't it? Before enlisting, I visited the famous Baishao Pavilion. I looked at the man across from me and took out a pill. "Please tell me, what kind of medicine is this?" The pill was one I had stolen while feeding it to Lu Tingsheng when he collapsed. The man glanced at it. A suppressant for the 100-day red poison. The 100-day red was the deadliest poison in the world. It made you feel like you were being skinned alive. There was no antidote. He looked at me. "What is your relationship with Lu Tingsheng?" I was taken aback. "Why? 100-day red comes from Nanman. The last person who came asking about it was Lu Tingsheng. I was the one who gave him the medicine." I stared at the red pill, lost in thought. I felt as if I had returned to that secret room, with Lu Tingsheng's eyes blazing red as he said he would never betray Zhu Huanyan. Never. My voice trembled when I spoke again. "How was he poisoned?" He sighed. "In the Battle of Wuxia Pass, Lu Tingsheng was captured. The Nanman fed him 100-day red. He's been holding on with the medicine I gave him all these years. He's at his limit. I enlisted as a woman and went through all the same struggles as in my past life." News of Lu Tingsheng reached me regularly. Each time he captured another city, my soldiers celebrated quietly. A year later, word came that the Marquis had been defeated. He had been on the verge of victory when he suddenly coughed up blood and fell from his horse. I stumbled. I had to hold on to the table to steady myself. Lu Tingxing's poison had taken him. What is the Marquis's condition now? The messenger didn't dare lift his head. He's been captured by the Nan Man. The entire camp erupted. My head buzzed, and I couldn't make out what anyone was saying. Someone shook my shoulder, and I finally snapped back to the present. General, what do we do? I gripped the table, my knuckles white. I said, I'm going to bring him back. With a team of just 400 men, I launched a surprise attack and captured a Nanman city in one night. The next day, the Nanman army returned, demanding battle. I stood on the high city wall and looked down at the masked commander. I couldn't hide the depth in my eyes. Long time no see. Can't even show your real face anymore. He looked up at me, unmoving. The flags of both armies fluttered. The tension was thick. Finally, he laughed softly and removed his mask. Long time no see, general who pacifies the peace. I replied, long time no see, Jiang Chang, Major Jiang. But you're wrong. I'm not the general who pacifies the peace. The major's eyes must be failing him. Jiang Chang laughed. Yes. I was mistaken. The general who pacifies the peace died long ago. I looked at him without speaking. He had once been my most trusted comrade and my most loyal subordinate. Even now, I didn't want to believe he was the traitor. And he was also the father of that fool, Jiang Jinyan. Once I was certain Lu Tingsheng hadn't betrayed me. I knew there had been another traitor in the army back then. After all, creating a mask that looked like Lu Tingsheng required someone who knew him well. Besides, only the soldiers on the scene knew the route Lu Tingsheng would take. Without a tip-off, he wouldn't have been captured so quickly. This only confirmed there was a traitor. Figuring out that the traitor was Jiang Cheng came later, thanks to something the Baishao Pavilion master said. He told me that Lu Tingsheng's first poisoning happened just after he killed He Yan. He Yan, Jiang Jinyan's mother. Lu Tingsheng had told me she died of a broken heart, but actually he had killed her himself. For revenge. Both He Yan and Jiang Cheng were Nanman, hidden deep within our army for years. I looked at Jiang Cheng. Where is Lu Tingsheng? He said, dead. He was poisoned with 100-day red. He couldn't hold on any longer. My hands tightened on the reins. I looked up at the hazy border sky. It was hard to breathe. With great effort, I forced out words. I've come to take him home. Give him to me, and I'll return this city to you. Jiang Cheng shook his head. He killed my wife and child. If I hand him over to you, I'll have nothing to answer to them. I found it bitterly ironic. How foolish Lu Tingsheng was, raising someone else's son for so many years. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Jiang Cheng stared at me, puzzled. What are you laughing at? I wiped a tear from the corner of my eye and sighed. I'm laughing at how foolish Lu Tingsheng is. He raised your son for over a decade, adopted him as his own, and never treated him harshly. He told him that his parents were great heroes who died at Wuxia Pass and told him to remember them. Don't you think he's foolish? Jiang Cheng's eyes went wide. He looked up in disbelief. Are you serious? My son is still alive. I didn't answer him. I just shouted, Major Jiang, if you have any conscience left, give him back to me. I'll be here tomorrow evening. He delivered Lu Tingsheng's body before the appointed time. I ran to him, not even noticing that my hair had come loose. Lu Tingsheng was truly dead. I looked at his pale face and suddenly remembered the first time I saw him. That year, during the great drought in the Western Front, I found him lying in a pavilion. I had someone give him water. He followed me after that. No matter how many times I tried to send him away, I hadn't wanted to take him with me. He was so small and thin. What use could he be? I wasn't the king of hell, forcing him to his death. But he wouldn't leave. He followed me for miles. The way he looked up at me, I'll never forget it. It was so bright, like the stars over the northern desert. In the end, I gave him some food and took him along. Because of those words, he risked his life for me for decades. Now, I realize I wasn't a very good person. I wiped his face with my sleeve and leaned close to his ear. I heard you liked me. Is that true? I tucked a lock of my hair into his hand. Don't leave too quickly when you reach the underworld. Wait for me a little while. I didn't take him back to the capital. I buried him at Wuxia Pass. I returned with news of Lu Tingsheng's death. Jiang Jinyan locked himself in his room for a day and a night. I told him the truth about his origins. Your biological father is now a general in the Nanman army. Whether you stay or go, I won't force you. He said, I have only one father. His name was Lu Tingsheng. He was the Marquis who pacifies the north. He was a great general. Jiang Jinyan was still Jiang Jinyan, but he seemed to have grown up overnight. I stopped leading troops. I stopped going to the capital. I traveled everywhere with Jiang Jinyan. He met a mute female physician and fell in love at first sight. He stayed in the Medicine King Valley to learn to heal. Bored, I left him a letter one night and went my own way. Once again, I was alone. In my dreams, I saw Lu Tingsheng on the bridge of helplessness, beckoning to me, not wanting to keep him waiting. I ended my short life on a sunny afternoon. Mengpo was still diligently brewing her soup. Good. Next, I walked up to her and grinned. Long time no see. She almost dropped her soup ladle. She pointed at me, stammering, You short-lived ghost. It's only been a few years. Why are you back already? I shrugged. Life's too boring up there. I came down for a chat with you. Mengpa rolled her eyes and handed me her soup. New recipe. Try it. I took it but didn't drink. She glared at me. What now? I want to find someone first. I'll drink it after. She scoffed. Looking for someone in the underworld is like fishing for a needle in the sea. I handed the bowl back. You keep busy. I turned to leave, but she caught my sleeve. She pointed to a wooden pavilion nearby. Is she the one you're looking for? Lu Tingsheng stood in the pavilion, dressed in white, a sight I had never seen. He was radiant. I smiled and waved. Pingsheng, come here. Mengpa called me a shameless hooligan. I didn't care. She yelled at me. How can you be so shameless? Fine. You don't have to drink the soup. But she does. I snatched the bowl from Lu Tingsheng and downed it. I'll drink his soup. That's the same, isn't it? Could you please just look the other way? Mengpa was furious. Her new and improved soup, no longer too salty, was still ineffective on me. Just as she was about to speak, Lu Tingsheng pointed behind her. Lord Yama is here. Mengpa turned and bowed in a panic. Lu Tingsheng took my hand and jumped into the lake of rebirth. As we plunged to the bottom, I could still hear her enraged voice. You two bastards. In this life, I became a frail young woman confined to my room. I tried to go out to find Lu Tingsheng, but I fainted at the gate. What a useless body. I could only hope that Lu Tingsheng would find me. Tingsheng, when will you come for me? One day, while I was idly plucking flower petals at home, some sisters from the Lin family came to see me. They said the capital was lively today and invited me to come along. I saw their bright clothes and jewelry and knew their game. With me as a contrast, they would look better. I didn't mind. Getting out was good for me too. The capital was indeed lively. They told me that General-in-Chief of Cavalry had returned from the northern desert, along with his son, Lu Yuan, the most handsome young general in the north. No wonder there were so many young ladies on the streets. We sat at a winehouse and looked down at the scene. Soon, the streets grew noisy. The General-in-Chief's family had entered the city. I looked into the distance and saw a young man in fine clothes riding at the front, his expression cold. Some bold young ladies threw handkerchiefs at him, but he didn't even glance at them. My companions whispered, he's handsome, but so cold. He could freeze someone to death. I laughed softly and pointed. I think he's wonderful. Someone laughed. Oh, have you taken a liking to him? Yes, I said, I have. Everyone laughed at me for not knowing my place, but I ignored them. I leaned against the wooden railing, watching him approach. I held my handkerchief out over the railing and let it fall. It floated down and landed right in Lu Yuan's arms. He looked up, annoyed, then saw me. The iciness on his face instantly melted. I smiled and called out, would you be so kind as to return my handkerchief to me? Handsome young general. I received countless daggers from the other noble ladies. Everyone looked at me in disbelief. They probably hadn't expected a sickly thing like me to tease Lu Yuan in public, but the young man just smiled, folded the handkerchief carefully, and tucked it into his collar. He looked up and asked clearly, may I ask how old the young lady is and where she lives? I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean, General? Lu Yuan laughed. So that I may come and ask for your hand. What do you think of this story? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, I look forward to hearing your voice.